Dear friends, welcome back to Data Analytics Talks. Let's continue our preparation for the CDMP certification exam. CDMP is one of the certification provided by DAMA. It is in the field of data management. And we have a plan, and this is our second week. In the second week, we will be covering data handling ethics. So when I compare to the other subject areas, data handling ethics is relatively small and it is just covering 2% in the exam. However, we would like to have a thorough understanding so that if you get one or two questions, we will be able to attend that. So in this chapter, in this video, I will be covering an introduction to data handling ethics and the definition of data handling ethics and the goals of data handling ethics and what are the business drivers for the data handling ethics, and finally some of the essential concepts within data handling ethics. So my mode of delivery will be I will be sharing my screen to highlight the points. I will also try to pick some points from the book and to make sure that we have covered everything. So feel free to share your feedback and comments. If you like this delivery model, we will continue. If you don't want to refer to the book, let's stick to the presentation alone. So whichever you appreciate, we will continue with that. Okay, let's begin. Chapter 2, Data Handling Ethics. So as per this book, ethics are principles of behavior based on ideas of right and wrong. And the ethical principles often focus on ideas such as fairness, respect, responsibility, integrity, quality, then transparency, and trust. So when it comes to data handling ethics, there are a set of moral principles that guide how we collect, use, and manage data. It helps ensure that data practices respect people's right and promote fairness. And the ethical handling principles are complex, but they center on several core concepts like impact on people, potential for misuse, and economic value of data. So, if you want to understand the definition of data handling ethics, they're concerned with how to procure, store, manage, interpret, analyze, and dispose of data in a way that are aligned with ethical principles, including potential impact on people and organization. So, that's all about the definition of data handling ethics. Next one is the goals of data handling ethics. Why do we need the data handling ethics? So mainly there are three goals. The one is to control risk by establishing an acceptable practice for data handling. Okay, to control risk by establishing acceptable practices for data handling. And secondly, to change or instill preferred culture and behaviors on handling data. So you have to instill preferred culture and behaviors on handling data. If you don't have the preferred behavior, now there is a chance of misuse of data, right? And finally, it is to maintain alignment with compliant practices in ethical handling of data. So it should maintain an alignment with compliant practices. Okay, that is the goals of data handling ethics. And coming to some of the essential concepts in the data handling ethics, the first one is ethical principles for data. They are respect for persons, beneficence, then justice. We have three. What is respect for persons? This principle reflects the fundamental ethical requirement that people be treated in a way that respect their dignity and autonomy as a human individual. It also requires that in case where people have diminishing autonomy, extra care be taken to protect their dignity and rights. So that is the principle of respect for persons. And the second principle is beneficence. What is beneficence? This principle has two elements. First, do not harm, do not harm. And second is maximize possible benefits and minimize possible harms. You should maximize the possible benefits and minimize the possible harms. That is the second principle is beneficence. And the third principle is justice. So this principle considers the fair and equitable treatment of people. Justice is fair and equitable treatment of people. That's the third principle. And coming to the second concept, that is principles behind data privacy law. So as per this book, they say public policy and law try to codify right and wrong based on the ethical principles, but they cannot codify every circumstances. Privacy laws in the European Union, Canada, and United States show how different approaches to codify data ethics. So if you look at GDPR, you know what is GDPR? GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation of the EU. So what are the principles behind GDPR? So first, they are having fairness, lawfulness, and transparency. Maybe personal data shall be processed lawfully, fairly, and in an transparent manner in relation to data subject. And they have another principle is purpose limitation. What is purpose limitation? See, if you collect the data, that should be for a specified, explicit, and legitimate purpose. It should not be used for other purpose. Then another principle is data minimization. So personal data must be adequate, relevant, and limited to what is necessary in relation to the purpose for which they are processed. They should not collect unnecessary data, only collect what is minimum. That's the data minimization. Then we have accuracy. The data should be kept accurate. It should not kept for long because there is a possibility of changing the accuracy, right? So should maintain accurate. Then storage limitation. That means the data must be kept in a form that permits identification of data subject for no longer than is necessary. That means should not be kept for a long. And the other principle, they say integrity and confidentiality, accountability. Accountability, data controllers shall be responsible for and be able to demonstrate compliance with the above principles. Okay. Then again, similarly, we have the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act of Canada. That's also having similar principles. Then coming to the next essential concept is online data in ethical context. What is online data? There are now emerging dozens of initiatives and programs designed to create a codified set of principles to inform ethical behaviors online, maybe especially in United States. There are some topics include their ownership of the data. What is ownership of the data? The right to control one's personal data in relation to social media sites and brokers. Then right to be forgotten. That means to have information about individual be erased from the web, particularly to adjust online reputation. Then identity. Having the right to expect one identity and a correct identity and to opt for a private identity. Then freedom of speech online. So these are the different topics related to online data. Then we have another concept called risk of unethical data handling. So there are a lot of risk related to unethical data handling. So basically, the classic book "How to Lie with Statistics" by Daryl Huff, 1954, describes a range of ways that data can be used to misrepresent fact while creating a veneer of factuality. So there are many methods like judicious data selection, manipulation of scale, and omission of some data points. And these approaches still exist today, right? So maybe related to timing. Then, for example, equity market manipulation through end of the day stock trade can artificially raise a stock's price at closing of the market, giving an artificial view of the stock's worth, right? And misleading visualization. Maybe charts and graphs can be used to present data in a misleading manner. Then you can make unclear definitions, invalid comparisons, then making a bias, then transformation and integration of data. So these are the ways we can misrepresent actual data. Even you can hide the data. Another ethical concept is establishing ethical data culture. So how do we establish ethical data culture? So establishing a culture of ethical data handling requires understanding existing practices, defining expected behavior, codifying these in policies and a code of ethics, and providing training and oversight to the enforce expected behavior. Similar to the data governance, this process requires a lot of strong leadership support. Then finally, data handling ethics and governance. Again, you know, oversight for the appropriate handling of data falls under both data governance and legal counsel. Together, they are required to keep up to date on legal changes and reduce the risk of ethical impropriety by ensuring employees are aware of their obligations. So basically, the data ethics and governance comes under this. And the DAMA International Certified Data Management Professionals certification requires that data management professionals subscribe to the formal code of ethics, including an obligation to handle data ethically for the sake of society beyond the organization that employ them. Okay, so these are some of the essential concept of data handling ethics. I've already seen them, but just recollecting. So these are some of the ethical essential concepts, but we will just recollect some of the important points. So ethical principle for data, respect for individuals, transparency and accountability. Then what is behind data privacy law? They are informed consent, purpose limitations, data minimization. Then data handling ethics for online data, they are ownership of data, right to be forgotten, identity, freedom of speech online. Then what are the risk of unethical data handling? They are data breaches, discrimination and bias, financial and legal consequences, loss of trust, then manipulative marketing practices. So finally, we have seen that establishing an ethical culture requires leadership, commitment, and training and awareness. So with that, we have come to the close of the chapter, data handling ethics. So next section, we will cover data governance. Thank you.